under 20 frames, and I did my best with what I have.
Okay.
I made the submission, but my computer is gone.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you can just put, I don't see, I haven't navigated yet, but if not, just put whatever you had.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, great. You know, we'll see, we're learning, and also you don't have a computer lab. This is for all the students. You guys don't have a computer lab, so we totally understand that it happens to you like it happened to Eda, like it froze and she lost all the files. So, you know, just let us know and we keep moving. And then we
have a question about the computer lab. So I know Christina during thesis, she had remotely sent some animations to be farmed on the school computers. And I was wondering if we were going to be able to eventually have access, like remote access to the school computers to possibly do the same thing.
I don't know how you know, Kate, there were 80 students, there are 500 students right now. And there's only like 80 computers. Actually, we had available computers because the 2 labs, and then we have postgrad. It was not such a big group. But I'm going to check with Vic now, because as you go farther into the semester, that maybe there's a sign-up system. Because it was not so hard, but I know they made it available to us in the summer because it was a smaller group. And we gave 2 students 1 computer. So even if it's like 5 students, 1 computer, something like that, or 5 computers, 2 CIX and stuff like that, I think that would be great. I'm going to email them.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for reminding me, Kate. If, you know, anything, we'll take anything. Few computers and then sign up, anything. Faris, do you have that for vertical? Do you guys have access to the server like we did in the summer or not?
No, we don't. But I got questions from students about that, and I just said email Vic, and maybe he can make an exception because I know that people were having computer issues like that where you know, things froze, and I don't know, I feel like Vic could have made an exception for that.
Yeah, I think it's just an issue of a number, like 400 and something. It's not the same as, or 80 kids in the summer.
Right. I think, I mean, I feel like he can just use it for emergencies like that.
Yeah. Like we have those computers that were like, you know, optionals. Like in the summer that we have ones that are like for signups. But we'll check. I'm going to check with him and see if there's some way that we can have it as a backup. So, okay, is William here or not? Do you see William? Rachel, do you have his his cell phone? Maybe you can text him.
Yeah, I'll text him.
Okay. I don't think I have it. So we will begin. Hey, hi everybody. How was your weekend? Are you all rested? Don't look at CNN, nothing like that. Okay, just stay in Zoom. Don't look at the news. Please focus. Okay, so we will begin with Rachel's group. So we're going to do like we did last Monday. We're going to do 3 students at a time. And then we'll have a conversation, you know, per the 3 students. Did we lose Marcelo or Marcelo's here? Ah, no, he's there. Hola, Marcelo.
Yeah, yes.
Good. Okay.
Okay, I think we're just missing Jai Fang, and Poppy needs to upload a few more images from my group. But we can start with Haruka, student B.
Okay, so I guess I'll start then.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Haruka, and my classroom here aims to create a playful kind of space where different contexts or the program merge into a larger geometry, while each of them are still kind of clear to identify. So the spaces with the tables that have flat surfaces is designed for studying, while the adjacents are the carpets or the sofas for relaxations. And the upper right space is for like lecture spaces, while the geometry of the ground also allows people to lay down and like rest when there is no lectures. And the wall in the bottom right is a storage area, and the part of the wall and also a part of the wall of the classroom. Yeah, so these are the some images from the videos that I created with the Twinmotion. Also, I was still playing with the kind of the fabric and the steel, different materialities with the different objects. The frame rate kind of seems low via the Zoom, but yeah, it was like a 30 frame FPS per second. Yeah, that's what I have for today.
Thank you. I like how you converted the ice cream, Haruka, to kind of now you have a shredded pillow, you know?
Yeah.
I'll send you something on the chat of what I think it looks like. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Okay. You said.
Hi. Uh, yeah. Actually, I was working on the. I changed the stuff I made before and put it into a classroom, and I actually in order to separate those children from each other and keep some distance, so I actually use the vertical space and to put them separately, have some separate space. And I also and maybe in next and maybe want to change the Speaks toy in the middle to become some how to sit down podium, and for those students to use and for teacher to teach something. And actually the yeah and I also maybe I have to change those table much bigger, but I will make do this soon. I think that is what I have right now. Yeah, I think maybe to make students separately and also have some connection with each other can be maybe some good one for good environment for under the academic. Yeah.
William and Rachel will have to work on music next. Sounds, not iTunes, like sounds.
Totally.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen, and this is what I've done for now. I using one of my furniture as the shape of my classroom because I think it has a good geometry, and the shape could make the classroom more flexible and interesting. Students could be separated as a small group or individual into different parts of the classroom, and it's just like a large cave and with multiple shape of three-dimensional shape at different levels and so on. Yeah, and I also tried some other material like fur in Maya, but my computer crashed 1,000 times, so just some simple material. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So I think all the stuff is looking really great. I definitely think that the last project needs, you know, Karen, you need more texture studies. Maybe that's a rendering issue, I guess.
Yes,
No?
I tried some other material, but always crashed.
We
My
understand that. Don't worry. You know, this is work in progress. I like how you did, and I know, you know, this is for everybody as an economy of means. You might have animation and then you put as a slideshow. You know, like if it doesn't work, just put it as images. You know, you figure out we can find ways in which we can have a render, zoom in onto a render and stuff like that. I think that Haruka Noah, the first one, I think the project is looking great. I put the straw hat because I saw that, you know, I mean, it's like a ridiculous reference I put for you, but I thought that you have, I don't know, where are you? I don't see. I think that what you have, I really like how the wood, you know, goes against the other colors. One is really like chocolate and so on. But I think that you need some materials that are texture. I really like the scooping of the floor, but I will keep on adding more diverse materials. So the straw, I mean, look at different straw. There's straw furniture and stuff like that. I just put the hat because, but I would weave it. And so that almost becomes, you know, what it was, the ice cream, maybe it's like that. And it's a weaving system and it can be quite solid. You can find a lot of that stuff, a lot of the baskets and things like that. I think that you need a more tangible material. I think the metallic, I'm not sure I would do. And then how they meet the ground. This is going to be for everybody, how you really meet the ground. And then how you start to think about walls. So the straw might like come up in a wall, something like that. So you might begin to look at the enclosure, you know, as a way to kind of divide and separate. But I thought, I also think that you need a few more like the shark. I think it's nice to have the known figures, like the red chairs and the sharks. You have abstraction and then you have like a shark. And maybe you have like a teddy bear, I don't know, something like that. Or like a dinosaur.
Kind of like a better balance between the more regular stuffs, the more playful stuffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean more. I mean, I'm talking about figural and non-figural. Okay, so like you're creating a lot of abstraction. The scoops are very, you know, more like geometries. So I think finding those moments where you recognize it. I'm not very keen on the pillows that you threw out there. I think you need them.
I see.
But anyway.
By straws, I'm not really sure what the definition of the word means, but is that like the thing when you use to drink, or there's something else to it?
Sorry, I missed the question. What did you say?
Like by straw, does it mean like the thing you use to drink, or is there another definition to the word? I'll look it up.
For the hat, Rachel, she knows what I mean. She'll follow up.
Okay.
Like what the cow eats.
Cow eats.
It's like and then she knows. You'll find a straw is like a material, but you have a straw, you know, for a lot of things. It's this kind of, yeah. It's a plant. But there's some that are plastic, you know, like, so you could have synthetic ones.
Like a dried grass. Yeah. I thought it was really exciting to see the first of the zooming out, and really effective when you guys started on the book. But I think the edges of the classroom still need a little bit more detail. Maybe we'll start working on that this week for sure.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah, because I wasn't really thinking about the bounding box of the classroom this weekend for the project. So We'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, I mean, I like beautiful projects. I mean, it's interesting. I think there's a difference between the first one and the second and third, besides the sensibility, coloration, and so on. In the first one, there's much more of a reliance on just like furniture pieces and maybe kind of ground pieces, let's say, including these sort of gigantic pillows. And so it's interesting. It's maybe more kind of related to what sort of sense of, what interiority normally is, but it does feel like you have less control of the sort of periphery, or there isn't like that this could kind of keep growing in a way, and I think this was maybe to me the challenge of this exercise is like, how do you actually produce a sense of interior without necessarily, building walls, no? And I mean, the second is beautiful. Sorry, Yusik. Sorry, I was talking about Haruka. I should have looked at the name, but in uses, I think it's actually really, really refined and a little bit less, but interestingly, Karen, I do wonder what is the sense of, what is the relationship between these sort of rooms or liners or surfaces, maybe more in Karen than in Yusef, but in relationship with the kind of sense of interiority or the actual classroom as a sort of maybe mega envelope itself, unless maybe we are looking at an exterior view of that. I mean, those would be kind of things that I would consider in terms of like, when you actually move in scale, are you going to make a classroom that is going to be really, really large, so it's like double or whatever, triple height, so it actually can house these things? Or is it going to be maybe an expansion of some of those rooms, and maybe some of those rooms are going to be big classroom, and then the rest is going to be an exterior? I mean, these are questions that I think you probably want to kind of, you'll have to answer as you sort of move along in the process.
Yeah, thank you.
I would like to second that because, all these three projects are great, but I think once you guys go through the challenge of, let's say just have a bounding box of 1,000 square feet, then many of the things that you guys already designed are not going to be able to be housed within this constraint. So I would say maybe it will be a little bit helpful to first give yourself that constraint, and then deploy the furniture, and in your case, Haruka, the floor manipulations that you're doing, so that then you can actually see how much of this is able to be encased within this boundary. I'm not saying that the boundary has to be a box, but maybe that's kind of like a good example to start visualizing how much space is it that you guys will need within a room.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So let's move to the next three.
Just a small note for future pinups. I would use Vimeo instead of YouTube because it comes in at the right resolution and seems to be less choppy.
Yes, also, I think this is important for when we present for our reviews. We can stay all in Vimeo, and we can set up the page through Vimeo.
Hi, this is Christy. My project is still trying to focus on how to create this warm and soft feeling space, which trying to encourage the kids learning through playing and communicate in different ways. So for my wall, which is a bloom material, the cloud, it distinguishes the space through a very soft edge. So the kids, they can still like see how the whole layout of the classroom, like through the soft edge of those gaps. And it also provides them a chance to climb and sit on those different levels. The furniture and the cloud were all remeshed by the toy, so they can also act as a part of the toy, which is playful. And I wanted to emphasize this contrast between the soft and hard edge. So the chair, the furniture is more hard, while the part they sit, which is mat, is kind of soft. And I also add the carpet on the ground to some edge of the cloud, so it kind of protects them from falling, and also allows them to sitting on the ground. I used a very colorful carpet because I'm trying to add the dynamics in the space. So it's also a contrast between how those furnitures are more like still and cute, while the carpet are more like floating around.
Hello, this is Shijun. And for my classroom, I start with this bear in the center of one of the table. And I think this classroom is mainly for the low grade, I think between 1 to 3rd grade. And I separated the classroom into different zones. So for the 2 circular table, it would be the teaching zone. And over the mezzanine on the right side, it will be like a lunch zone. And on the top, there is like a big wall and have a bear-shaped cave, be a playful area. And under the arc-shaped rug, it should be like a more private zone for the classroom.
Hi, I'm Sophie. I had some issues with the animations because of my laptop, so I couldn't present one, but I'm in the process of figuring that out for next week for sure. So for my project, my idea for the furniture was initially to have them be able to interlock and kind of complete each other. So I wanted to keep this idea for the classroom itself. So as you can see down that there are no like corners. Everything is continuous, everything is kind of a toy, and I wanted to blur the lines between the wall and the floor and the furniture itself, so that maybe also eventually for the building I could blur the lines between interior, exterior, playground and classroom. There's also a clear transition from right to left between the mood, so it goes, and we can see that in the walls, it goes from a more bumpy to smoother, And also in the colors, it goes from, like there's a shade of color from green to blue to pink. And this transition also reflects in the functions. So in this area, it's more playful. We can climb on the wall, we can sit anywhere, etc. But as we go more to the left, it's a more serious zone, maybe more study oriented, like a library. There are clear desks and clear shelves. We can see it in the picture down. Yeah, more clear desks and clear shelves. So so yeah, for the materials, I played around most with velvet, and I also wanted to kind of play with having the same color but changing its texture and its reflectivity and transparency, so to kind of have this continuous fluid atmosphere. So to the left, it's more of a wooden, serious area, and to the right, it's more of a playful playground classroom type of thing. And we can see in the plan that everything tries to like interlock and like, yeah. Thank you.
So as we move to the next projects, because this is a little bit for us to see everything, I would say let's just look directly onto the movies. We can see the renders, and you just tell us in the movie, because many things we can see already of what is being described. I mean, as far as for when we see each group, we just see we go fast and we go and see the movie. So we can have time for conversation. So I think that Sophie, if we could zoom out to the city, I think that we saw city or not, or am I confused? We saw city, no?
No, there's still one. Oh yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, did we do? Faris,
we saw three. Yeah. Sophie, Shichen, Sophie.
Sorry.
So I think, Sophie, I like that you started working on the walls. You know, that the walls they start blending. I would work with like this wave walls and simple walls, you know, or even one that has glass. You guys don't forget that you want to have light. You might you know, depending if you do 2 floors or not, but I would imagine the windows will be important. So
yeah.
Sophie, maybe within that environment, some of that stuff becomes windows, and then could be interesting windows. I think you started working with textures. Keep going with that, because that's interesting. I like the fish, you know, that's to the Frank Gehry fish that he did earlier on his career. So I think that's great, but I see the first render, things are overlapping too much. Maybe I would define clear boundaries from one thing to the next one. And one thing I would tell everybody, I like the middle project and the first project and the second project. Define the materiality that you own. So either because it's that, no, you don't own, meaning you didn't buy it, but like that you invent, you know? So either the middle one has this kind of fake grass, or the first one that has this kind of marble pattern or marbling pattern. So find the texture as you start to develop that has a narrative. It might be a new material, it might be, you know, now when you go to any kids school, they have, it's just so many colors, all the same foam, you know, or the same plastic finish. So I think that you can start to imagine, I mean, and everybody should be quite imaginative in terms of what you're using. Maybe some stuff that don't even exist, you know? I think that this should be quite out there, all of these projects. So I like the carpets. I think maybe they're really high. Or sometimes they're high, you know, low. I mean, what kind of texture? It's an image texture. I don't see yet a texture used.
Yeah, I love the marble carpet. I think it's actually quite nice. I mean, I don't know if it is in marble carpet or not, meaning, I don't know what, I think it would be super interesting to use whatever that texture is, which I think is some sort of stone marble, and turn it into a carpet, you know, and make it mushy and like, and sort of friendly, as opposed to leaving it kind of flat. but I'm good with the fact that it actually can be chess on the floor. I mean, I wanted to talk about the second and third project, especially this. I mean, I like the color palette of the third project. I do think the surfaces and those sort of like large walls or subdivision walls, as well as some of the objects, and this, including this cardad object on the second project. Sorry, I cannot see the names at the top. Are actually interesting in terms of like they're not walls. They're not like you know, they're not going to define the space, but they're going to define partitions in the space. They're going to define like maybe a little bit of room between, you know, within rooms, that I think would actually be quite functional and interesting in the context of classrooms. So I will imagine, like, with kind of building with the previous comment and William's take, is that I think it's important not, you know, to kind of begin to anticipate the next exercise as you're actually beginning to take on these pieces. So it's not a, you know, so the exercises are not isolated, but they're beginning to, you know, things begin to coalesce, and there's not like just, I mean, at least I would say, not just more and more elements, you know, but maybe the elements begin to actually coalesce or integrate with, like, you know, other elements. Let's say, like, you know, the great piece, the great volume in project number 2, Xichen, could become kind of nested within walls, or the language of the volumes could actually become, you know, associated with that. And in that regard is when I will have a different point with Florencia. I like the kind of big balloon inflatable things of the first project. I can't see. I think it's so. But I find them a little bit like at odds. I find a little bit at odds with the other things, you know, and I wonder how those things are going to maybe get along with the rest of the work, you know, especially given that you have a lot of control on the rest of the design and the tables and the kind of shelves on the back, you know. So, but again, I mean, I know this is a little bit of a kind of intermediate stage.
For me, I would advocate for whenever because you guys have very formal projects, and, you know, things, they have like very clearly defined geometry that it's out of the ordinary. I would advocate for you guys to look at your projects in top view and look at the way in which the outline is being generated from the placement of the objects. Because, for example, in the first project, I would say that the outline might be super interesting. And in the second object, just by looking at, in the second student, just by looking at the third image, you know, that outline might be like super simple, right? So because you guys are still not dealing with constraints, I would also picture that outline that you're generating from top view could be super dynamic and, you know, could like have a lot of movement and not be so rigid like in the second. And I mean, I would even say in Sophie's project, just the fact that you're already giving boundaries, and, you know, you're kind of like, it's good that you're constraining yourself with a particular set of limits. But then for some reason, I read your objects as very small in the way in which you're framing the space. So it's also a question of how do you frame the different views that you're giving us? Because depending on that, you know, we might be able to tell that, you know, the scale might be wrong, or your room might be huge, or, you know, etc.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I think this next one is 3 or 4. Is this the first student back or not?
I think he's back. There's something there. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do these 3, and then we look at the, let's do maybe, Faris, let's look at the first one first, the first student that we missed. Yeah, thank you. And then, yeah, let's look at the animation, and and then we see the last three.
Jeff Fang, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you want to
Sorry
say
for
a few words? Yeah.
Yeah. This is my project, and for my project, I want my space. I divide my classroom in three space, three area. You can see, and each area can move. I hope, can move like the furniture. So, and I want my classroom can be laid out in different many way, like the furniture. So you can see my my classroom has 2 level, and the first level is for the student to play, and you can see many many cloud in the first level. And I also think this cloud can like the beanbag, so a student can take a rest or play on it. And the second level is a classroom and have some tables and chairs, also like that. That's all.
Okay, thank you. So this is for all the students. In 2CAX, always at the beginning of the semester, we do these massive reviews with everybody because you guys learn a lot from your fellow friends. I always say, you know, in 2CAX, you learn from your friends a big percentage of this class. So then as we move on, you'll see we'll start to separate. We're going to do smaller reviews, more focused, longer conversations. So right now it's more like a running through the work and seeing the work. As we all get into a certain level, then we will split into smaller groups and we'll have more like longer conversations. So you know this is not going to be like this every, you know, throughout the semester, but it's really important that everybody sees everybody's work, at least the first, you know, 4 or 5 weeks. Okay? Why Ben?
Hello.
Are you there?
Yeah, yes.
Right.
You want to say a few words, Wavin? What you've been working on?
Actually, this is the my classroom organization. I have the 3 solid chunk gives the multi-layer of the multi-level of the space for the resting and the leisure room, and middle there's the puzzle geometry defined area for the study area, because I don't have the clear boundary for the outer classroom right now, so I give this really sharp the puzzle geometry to define my inner space. Yeah, and you can see at the middle there's my created table and chair, and for the upper level that's the more like the sofa area for students to climb up to have the different view for the both outer space and inner space for my classroom. Yeah, and this is my the tool. This is the classic piggy bank, and also the rattle for the children. Thank you.
Thank you. So you guys, while the movie plays, please describe what we're looking as the movie plays. You know, this studio is going to be animation, a midterm review. So you're going to be showing your projects through animation. So you have to narrate what we're seeing.
Okay, so I'm Kian. This is my project. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. So my interest lies in the surface skeleton toys. During the process of abstracting the toys to form the furniture, I noticed that when trimming toys surface, the skeleton exposes. So when surfaces bind to each other, the skeleton interweaves and redefine the interior spaces, which would shape the complicated structure, having the potentiality to separate interior spaces and form a functional furniture. So from the outside, the classroom looks like a pile of toys. The material should be soft and which prevent the children from hurting each other when they are play with each other. And in the interior spaces, the space currently will be divided into the classroom space and the private meeting room space, and also the kind of the cavity which guarantee some quiet environment for children to just study with themselves. And that's it. Thank you.
Poppy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. My laptop basically stopped working. I ran out all the animation images, but I couldn't open After Effects. I will put the video back on as soon as possible. Really sorry for that. So yeah, because our group is focused on toys, so I think there I have like I think so I put I think each classroom should have a concept for its own. So this classroom I like use puzzles. You can going down to see like from the top view, you can see like animal shaped puzzles from the third image. Yeah. From the third image. And so it's what I did is like I get volume and then did some like pulling to create some spaces inside. And so you can see like on the top is like there are different rooms for like group meetings, and there are also like big spaces for like collective lectures, things like that. Yeah. So yeah, basically that's what I got so far. Yeah.
I think that the project before the last one, I'm not sure that I see 1,000 square foot there, so verify that before we move on. You know, maybe there's few classrooms happening there. We didn't give you a height limit, so actually you might be okay with the height. But in terms of plan, I would check on that. I like how you start to isolate spaces. You know, it seems that the projects towards the end, they began to talk about enclosure. It's a pity we don't see a render for the final project, because I think that I really like the floor plan that you have, Poppy. No, I think it's working really nicely. I like how you have niches, you have spaces. I mean, I'm missing texture, materials, but it seems that, I mean, the third image on plan is nice, because nobody says that a classroom has to be this open space, you know? I mean, it might be that you have to start to make independent. Each one has a different activity, and then you break it down instead of the open plan. I mean, I think every school could have, I mean, you know, completely different. And as we go through the different, when we move on the project, and then you have to say what's kindergarten. Right now, we're not even asking, is that what's kindergarten, first grade, second grade. All those classrooms could keep on advancing. No?
Yeah.
So I really like your floor plan. I mean, I think I get it still lost with the floor. You need to, you know, you need to develop the floor and so on. But before I go into detail, I wanted to say that it's working really nice.
Yeah, thank you. I will keep working. Yeah.
I wanted to, yeah, I'm also kind of intrigued on the last project. I think it's an interesting idea potentially to create like either like a kind of subdivision or pseudo partitions that allow for a more, you know, a more controlled set of like, you know, experiences, let's say. You know. I'm not so sure it could, you know, it will have so many of these spaces, let's say, given the 1,000 square feet or a little bit less. But I'm curious, and I will definitely try to, you know, I like the sort of templating, it's not poche what you're doing, but you're actually producing sort of figures that are nested, you know, virtually nested, because they're not, you know, what remains is not solid. I think there may be like an interesting idea as to how the classroom manifests itself, you know, when you're looking at mass, when you're looking at volume from outside, and what is actually the relationship between the exterior and exterior. And I mean, I tend to think that you already kind of have maybe some hints of what you can do. On the contrary, Kian, I mean, I love the kind of what you produce. I think it's kind of a rock and roll. I mean, it's like I want to live, you know? I mean, it's really, really, really nice. But I do think it would be important to know, you know, to see how all of that fits inside a kind of space that is not just made, you know, to only fit that, but somehow it's an architecture that you're actually interested in and somehow control. And there is some sort of relationship between volume and mass and interiority as such, you know. I mean, my thinking, and again, I refer to Rachel, of course, in all of this, but my thinking is that maybe some of the larger walls that are already creating pseudo enveloping spaces will have something to do with the envelope, you know, and maybe they become part of it and so on. So you could actually somehow like begin to put all of this, you know, together in a way. But I mean, again, I think the materiality and the effects of light and so on are really, really, you know, quite nice. And again, I probably kind of have questions about how it actually can move forward. So, but then, you know, it's pretty good work.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, great.
Hey, I have to hop off now to go to the studio. Okay, great. Rachel can take it. So see you guys. Great work.
Thank you, Faris.
Thank you, Faris.
Yeah, I would say, Kian, also really amazing renders. I think, you know, you've tackled the responsibility of, you know, producing good quality renders, and, you know, they really showcase, you know, the skills that you have. But I would also question the scale of everything, because, you know, it just like I mentioned before, some of the items that you're using on the outside to create that outline, that boundary box for your classroom, it seems a little big compared to what we might think the human scale is if we look at the chairs. So I would just say, you know, be a little cautious with that. And of course, you know, check with Rachel to see how she wants to proceed. In the first project, I would say you're being a little timid. And this is just me reflecting in contrast of, well, not the first, sorry, Rachel, from the last three. Yeah, the student age. Yeah, you're being a little timid compared to what this studio as a whole is dealing with. And I would also, encourage you to kind of like, take cues from what you see your classmates are experimenting with, because as Florencia mentioned, the best way for you to kind of like see where you stand within your studio is to kind of like look at what others are doing. And, don't, by no means I'm saying that, you might be falling behind or anything, but I want to encourage you to look at the push that some of your other classmates are dealing with, and maybe, let go of yourself a little bit and try to experiment a little bit more with the different possibilities that the geometry is able to give you.
Any last comments for Jack Bang?
I think that we need to work a bit more on refining the details. In plan, it's very problematic, I think. I like it in the the idea of a 2-level, I wouldn't call it 2-level, I would call it mezzanine, okay? Because I think if you say 2 levels, but I would definitely call this a mezzanine system, where you have half levels, you might have a way of kids playing under. I like the stone, the kind of the bubble-like quality of the underbelly of this mezzanine. But I think that in plan is problematic, I mean, and I don't think it has to be everywhere. So again, in the third and fourth render, it's working, but in plan, it seems that furniture is gone. It's like there's few furnitures. So what if the mezzanine has furniture, like you're scooping furniture, you're working through furniture, maybe it's softer and the kids can play. If you look at an old medical school where all the medical students used to sit around, and then you would see the table in the center. So you might have a kind of a system of education where the kids are sitting in the mezzanine looking down at the teacher. I mean, that wouldn't be bad. So I like the mezzanine. I still think you have to develop it. 3 niches in the middle. I'm not sure how you would work on it. I think that, and then the shapes, I'm not sure how they're coming. I don't see the toys. That were the center of research for this group. So I think that you need to work it a bit more on some of these conflicts.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I think that with that, we finish with Rachel's group, and I think next is my group. Rachel, you want me to navigate, or you want to stay there?
What would you prefer? I don't mind.
If you don't mind,
yeah,
navigating. Sure. My Wi-Fi is not that well. It's also, I'm on the kind of on and off Wi-Fi. Thank you. So let's go through Kate.
Hi. Okay, so my project kind of started out looking at these tendrils and these vines, but kind of started to look also towards rock formations and this kind of candy-like cartel ghost chair texturing. And so I was looking at having these rock formations surrounding this. Oh, that was the shorter version. Okay. Well, if you go up, you can kind of see the zoomed out views. And so there are different sections. One where there's like a traditional classroom with desks and like attached to the chair. So if you have kind of a more traditional lecture space, then there's also a section where students can do group work. And then kind of these reading cubbies where either you can store, your lunch boxes, you can store books, and also you could kind of climb on them. They're flat at the top. They kind of cap out at around 6 feet. And so there's kind of a multiplicity of spaces throughout this. And I also kind of like the Candyland aspect of it that you get, and it almost looks like honeycomb. And so that is what I was looking at the moment. Although I think eventually moving forward, the carpet texturing makes it look a little noisy. So instead of using actual geometry, I'd probably just need to texture map it instead of using that kind of encloth thing. Well, not encloth, but and then also possibly having these kind of side structures interconnect to have like bridges or multiple levels throughout the classroom, depending on how the rooms need to expand into each other.
Excellent. I think, Kate, it worked really well rendering this way. So good job.
Thank you.
Okay, Austin.
Yes, so for my project, I kind of started looking at the idea of the branch, and I started to use the branch to kind of create a playscape in different configurations that kids can kind of sit on and climb on, and kind of less of a traditional desk layout and giving more freedom for the kids to move around and sit in different zones. And I started to use the bars kind of as a play on different French and Islamic gardens. They started to use these kind of bars and lines to separate different zones of plants, and I kind of brought it in to kind of move around plan and sectionally to create different bench and sitting areas and fold up and start to create an idea of enclosure.
Great, that's great. I like the apple pen in the nature setting. Yes, Jianli, go ahead. Thank you.
Well, we're done, right? Sure. Yeah.
Yes, 3 students.
Yeah. So I mean, the very different projects, and it's nice to see like a, you know, from like Kate. I love the way those pieces are looking, and the animation and the close-up views of the chairs and that sort of like a honeycomb-like table. It's super nice, and so I like the fact that that you're sort of like control and somehow between like a few pieces and a carpet or color floor, you already have some kind of organization, which leaves a little bit of room and imagination for the architecture, let's say, of the envelope, for the architecture of volume or mass to do something, you know, and also to, you know, to push against, no? So I think that's actually quite smart in that regard, because you don't want to make maybe decisions too early. Well, you're actually not really knowing what the thing outside is, you know. I think it's super nice. The second one, I love the fact that the sort of organization of branching, you know, I like what it's doing. I'm not completely sure how it would, like, you know, sort of work. It definitely see it more as a kind of hybrid project where, you know, almost like a synthetic landscape inside the, you know, inside the classroom. I could see the relationship with the exterior, especially gardens or maybe like gardens nearby, you know, that are more control. I mean, from the inside classroom could actually make what you're doing and expand on that. So I think that would be actually quite interesting. There's something about the materiality that is not completely clear to me, and I love the weird tree with the kind of cyan turquoise cyan color texture, but I don't know exactly, like some of the other ones seem a little bit like raw. And then in the third one, I just think it's like a super cool playground, you know? I mean, I remember I used to take my daughter into one of those. And so it's super cool. I question a little bit the you know, the efficacy of only having a playground. That, I mean, I think it's an interesting idea, and I think you should, you know, expand on that. But I'm also wondering whether you're kind of, I mean, I like the fact that you have those windows. I wonder if this is something that you're defining as a kind of classroom already, or that's something that you're planning to expand. But again, I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of tentative, you know, thoughts in relation to that. So, thank you.
For me, Austin, I would say that I'm not sure where you're getting the outline of the project, and you're dealing with this contour lines wherever they come, wherever they are projected from. But I think that it's what needs to dictate the outline that you get on the overall project. I would say also maybe experiment more with different materiality, because everything has like a solid to it, and maybe in some areas, you know, things can get a little bit of translucency, and you know, it could become a little bit more vivid. On the contrary, Kate, I would say maybe not everything needs to be translucent. Maybe, you know, there's a hierarchy, and you know, the things that are translucent are the ones that are more prominent in the project, and then as the project becomes less irrelevant to what you're doing, becomes more opaque. And Yanli, I would say, I like the way that the geometries are reflecting back into the pool. But for some reason, when I look at your project, that edge becomes very rigid. And I think rigidity in the edge in some moments might be nice, but in others, when the wall meets the floor, I think that rigidity of the edge might, you know, will create a nice effect if it starts loosening up, so that, you know, it looks like, you know, you're transitioning from the floor to the pool, and it's kind of like seamless. You don't see the edge. It's kind of like just, you know, like when you get into, I don't know if you've ever been to like one of those wave pool that you know, you just walk and you're like walking into water. So I think at some moment, that edge needs to get a little bit more, less defined than throughout the entire pool.
I totally agree. I really love how that, with that furniture, the wrinkles, and I imagine like some of those wrinkles could start to, just a few, go into the wall, or you could break the edge of the ball pit a little bit. But I wanted to say how great these are all in the way that they address the whole space and the floor at the same time. Particularly Kate, I think you said something about the busyness on the ground. I think it could be more. You could really play with the carpet and the way it almost relates to each seat. I think it's going really well.
Acrylic carpet, Kate. That's a word. Thank you, guys. As we move to the next one, I wanted to say something. For Austin, I would definitely work on texture. I think that you'll see how it will challenge. I think texture is mimicking too much green, and the gray, it seems like default. If you start to innovate in texture mapping, I think you'll take the project to the next level. And Jianli, I think the comments are great, making more classroom, but I think it's going in a good direction.
Hello. Do you guys hear me?
Yes, next round.
Okay, so
yes, good.
At first I want to say I'm so sorry because I couldn't upload my video. I have problem with my encoder. I created that animation, but when I upload it on YouTube, it doesn't play. So I have to figure this out as soon as possible. And about the project, my main concept is coming from carpet, and I use the carpet texture everywhere on my project. Even on my furniture, you can see the material, the carpet material growing up on each furniture. and I used curtain as walls to separate my spaces, the classroom space, to the playground, which is on the top left, and the library area, the small like shelves on the right-hand side, top right, and also the lecture space for teacher or students on the bottom right. And yes, I think this is it.
Thank you, Mefrat. Charlotte.
Hi, so I faced some technical difficulties this weekend just with processing and rendering. So I kind of simplified and went to black and white and took away certain thicknesses and left out texture mapping, which actually turned out to be an interesting exercise in terms of geometry analysis and just focusing on the line, the purity of the lines. I have one learning unit is composed of 4 lounge chairs back to back and 1 desk that kind of spans in and out from in between those chairs. And then one of those units is in each quadrant of the classroom. And moving forward, I'm just focusing on kind of potentially bringing the chairs down to the ground level and just getting rid of like superfluous geometries and kind of playing around with the lines of the chairs and how those relate to the wall structures.
For everybody, I put an image from Charlotte's earlier render so you get a sense. I put it at the top, Rachel, next to her name, from last week, just to show you guys the kind of texture sensibility, because I mean, in her case, texture is very important. So just to show you that.
Yeah, so going without it was really, really interesting, actually.
It's a test. It's actually not bad. Sometimes I recommend that. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent, thank you. Carl?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay. So at this stage, I've been thinking about the contradiction and juxtaposition of artificial nature and lifelike nature. For the artificial part, I'm using ready-made plastic chairs as my main furniture in the classroom. And for the walls and floor of the room, I developed a texture map of this green and bluish gradient color with noise. And for the lifelike part of the room, I have like the stone